Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Gift of Gaming podcast. Craig, are you okay?
I didn't think you'd continue, but awesome.
No, this is the intro now, Craig. We have made our bed with this. If you're interested in a video game podcast, you've come to the right place. Because here, myself and Craig are going to talk about video games. All right, it's me, your host, Darren Wade, and today I'm joined by Craig, the critical, and I must say thirsty Nolan. Craig, how are you?
How you doing, Darren? Thanks for having me on.
Of course. How's everything in life with Craig? You get much time for video games these days?
Yeah, plenty of time. And January is a shitty month, I suppose.
For most, yeah.
I mean, the weather here has been absolutely atrocious. Like, so it's
Storm
even if
Chandra.
I wanted to go out, I haven't really.
Mm-hmm.
But granted, like myself and Katie, I've been getting up early a lot because the weather seems to be decent in the morning. So I've been doing my walks or my hikes, my this, that, and the other in the morning, and then having the entire afternoon and evening to just stay at home and just play some games or watch some films or do this, that, and the other because the weather has been absolutely
abysmal.
shit.
Yeah, we've been quite well. I would say we've been lucky enough, but there was lots of flooding down over in the south side of Dublin.
Lots of flooding.
That's what you get for going on the rich side. You're not like us Northsiders over here.
And those Clontarf heads, fuck them too.
Yeah, living by the sea, you pay for what you get, or you get for what you pay for. But Craig, in these times when it's rainy and it's shitty, what is it that you're playing right now? As is tradition to ask on the podcast.
So what I'm playing at this second is, and it's such a even just to say the name of the game. I'm
embarrassed for you.
Yeah,
Craig.
right.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Like the name of the game is called Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah.
Now hear me out. That name by itself, because obviously it's a Japanese developer and they throw unicorn into loads of things, thinking it's cool, like Gundam unicorn, this, that, and the other unicorn. They should definitely have someone from America or anyone from the West to just say to them, "Hey, unicorns are
doesn't sell quite as much as you think."
Unicorns are like pink, as a color. When you do that, a lot of people are kind of like, "Oh, I don't think I could wear pink." Like unicorn is like that. You just don't do it.
It's not even that you can't wear pink. It's I don't know what kind of game. No, I have a preconceived notion of what game I'm getting when you have unicorn.
Like all they had to do was go Panther Overlord.
Yeah,
people were like, fuck yeah.
Us boys were like, let's get a beer and play Panther Overlord.
Because not to this, like Caroline, my housemate plays Fire Emblem, and it's a game for everyone. But I'd say 90% of the players are men. Like it's very much a war game and killing people. It's not your Animal Crossing or anything like that. It's very guy central.
Driven,
so I don't think it sold very well just on the back of unicorn. Like I dismissed it when I heard the name.
Because it was announced at, I think it was either Summer Games Fest or maybe it was something else. But I remember watching the trailer for it being like, damn, this looks good. It's like a crossover of, as you said, Final Fantasy Tactics and a Fire Emblem game. And then they were like going through the bits and pieces and they showed the battle animation. I was like, cool. And it was like, get ready for a Unicorn Overlord. And I was like, nah, not for me.
You lost me.
Not for me, yeah.
I just was blind to the game as soon as I heard the name, And then I just was looking up like good games to play and that was just one of the ones that popped up, that I really wanted to go for because I'm really in the mood for that type of game at the moment because I really want to play Final Fantasy Tactics, but I made such a big hullabaloo about the fact that it's ridiculously expensive and I won't do it. Yeah. So I can't of pure... I'd look silly if I bought it, so I can't do that.
Shame on you if you did, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not doing it, Darren. But when I went onto the PlayStation store, I saw Unicorn Overlord and it was completely free. So I was like, okay, that seems like...
Give it a go.
I'll give it a go, see what this is like. And within minutes, I was like, okay... I see what they're doing here.
Your thirst for a tactics game.
Yeah, but right out the gate, I'm like this because every Fire Emblem game to date, not once has ever looked like a console game. Like even the Three Houses, which is probably one of my favorite ones, still looks like a 3DS game.
Yep.
Like graphically, it is shit.
Yep.
But this game, Darren, this is a proper.
It's got your
PlayStation 4S, PlayStation 5 game, and it has those old school 2D sprites,
but done in the way that Triangle Strategy kind of had that real modern take.
Yeah, modern, much wider, much bigger, lots of stuff going on. But still almost like that Final Fantasy VII-esque, world map where you're just the towns are tiny because you're as big as everything else.
Yeah.
But you're running around and you can interact with people in real time, but in kind of map format. And it's a really clever system of designing a map. And it's one I wish all the other Fire Emblem games would copy going forward. Like, you know, like Fortune's Weave is going to be the next Fire Emblem game. I don't know.
Do you think we get that? That was my question. Do you think we get it this year?
Yes.
You think we do get it?
Well, I was listening to your podcast on my way here, the previous podcast episode, and you were saying like February, March are stacked, you know?
For Nintendo
so I was like, oh, Fortune's Weave must be one of the games where no, it's not.
There's no...
So what do they even have?
Oh, God.
Because I was like, there's nothing I'm looking forward
Yoshi's, that kind of Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi, Darren.
Yeah, no, listen, I never said it was... I said stacked in terms of
busy.
busy.
When you say stacked, I assumed you meant good. Like,
no.
Stacked.
Stacked in terms of busy. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of Nintendo games coming out in spring, not necessarily games that I'm going to be interested in playing on.
I love Yoshi as a character. He's one of my Smash mains, but I'm never, ever going to play a Yoshi game.
No.
That's Mario for babies, you know?
Yeah. What I did really like, actually, speaking of Yoshi, I know we're going on tandems here, but in the Mario Galaxy trailer, there's a beautiful... I don't know if anybody's seen it, but if you're watching it, there's the bit where Luigi and Mario are thinking they're coming up against a monster, but it turns out to be Yoshi, and Yoshi's just as scared of them as they are of it. Mm-hmm. But there's that beautiful little kind of the Yoshi theme motif that plays in the background that I was like,
no, it's not. It's the
no, that's when they go in. But when they're looking at Yoshi, when Yoshi kind of puts his or her or their face out, it goes do 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 do.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, oh yeah. So they know what they're doing in terms of like, because the first movie was so enjoyable. Like, I mean, not an Oscar-worthy movie, but one that I thoroughly enjoyed when I watched it. I was like, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about properly in a little bit, but sorry, I keep going.
Sorry, Fire Emblem. We were on Fire
Emblem.
I'm going
on. Well, I was supposed to be talking about Unicorn Overlord, but even that, I like. It's such a big game that like I don't even know if I should talk about right out the gate because like I've just started it, and I've played so many games since I last spoke to you that I'm like maybe I should talk about them first.
Okay.
Because I think I.
Well, no, we can just take this as the what are you currently playing? You having fun with it, and then we'll get into the.
So I'm playing this new game, Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah.
Oh wow. My god, it's crazy.
Cool.
It's very much like Fire Emblem. I don't really know where it's going, but
that was my question. Narratively, is it
unfortunately it seems to be weaker than all the other Fire Emblems. Like whoever wrote it really wanted it to be played by everyone, so they don't really like the idea of like in Fire Emblem people die left, right and center,
yeah.
In this there's no permadeath,
okay,
and like pretty much any time you defeat, and like the main crux of the story is someone has conquered the world through mind control. And so when you defeat the enemies, you essentially just release them from mind control. So you don't really kill anyone. Like units are dying as you're playing and stuff, but like, it doesn't really show that. It doesn't show you execute anyone or anything like that. And I much prefer.
I'd love if a game like called Unicorn Overlord had executions in it, man.
Right?
What a juxtaposition.
But Fire
Emblem
can be dark at times, especially Tree Houses. I thought was quite dark. I don't want to spoil anything with the story, but like you can essentially play as the villains and really like kill all your friends in it, So I was hoping for something maybe a little more like that because this game seems so promising otherwise. But it's very tame in that regard.
And technically it's a little bit, because I saw you playing a little bit the other night, it's not as rigid as Fire Emblem where you have kind of like the chessboard style where you move across this thing. It's kind of quite free-flowing,
grid.
Isn't it?
It's the characters just kind of like there's no turn order. Like, so that's a big thing in all those games, and the Fire Emblems and that. And in this, essentially, basically all your units are on, you can deploy your units and they cost AP or whatever, AP point. And like killing enemies and doing other things gets you AP. But generally you don't need AP to attack or do anything. Generally, there's the enemy units and they're moving, because it's a map, they're kind of moving slow. Way like, and you see an airplane moving like on a map, like it'd be moving slowly. So you move slowly across the map,
Yeah.
And when two kind of icons meet, two figures meet on the map, it initiates a battle. But there's no turn, and like who attacks who is purely determined by speed.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can surprise attack someone or they could surprise attack you. Just when two groups of enemies meet, they just get into a battle, and then that's just determined right there and then. Mm-hmm. And then either one unit dies and one keeps going, or like another battle will trigger over somewhere else, so like everything is in real time,
which is quite nice,
which is great, like a really, really cool way of doing it, because you can activate your skills in real time too. So like if you were controlling, say, a thief, like while he's running along, before you get close enough that the bad guy initiates an attack, you can click on him and then click like steal, so you can steal from a distance and then sprint away, tell him to move, so like no battle happened, you didn't
but you're still getting the good
loot. So it just seems like a very modern version of the Fire Emblem formula, like that's the way it should go. So really happy with that at the moment. But I'm only like 3 hours in, and I haven't had much time to play it. But I'll hope to talk to you about it in
greater detail.
Well,
before we get into the games, because that's what this episode is about. It's just us talking about kind of games that we've played recently. It's a new year. We've thrown our hat into like kind of different sort of games this year because we were waiting for it. Like, I mean, you don't have as much, let's say, of a backlog as the rest of us, like we talked about in our last episode. So
I'm so envious of that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of games. But before we get on to that, one of the questions, seeing as we're talking about this kind of Unicorn Overlord Fire Emblem, this one, what's it called again? The new one that's coming out?
Fortune's Weave.
What would you like to see in a new Fire Emblem?
Well, I love that it's set in a world we've already seen. I think that's because I hate learning off gibberish bullshit names all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
so we're familiar with these gibberish bullshit names already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at least, at the very least, you know, because it gives me more incentive to learn about the history.
Is it Three Houses world?
It's set in the Three Houses world, you know, and that had like when you went into the library in that game, you could learn about the houses and their histories. But in most games, I'm like, why would I learn any of that when like 20 hours from now I'll never look at it ever again?
Be gone.
You know, and whereas in Three Houses, like, it's a good enough game that I have played it multiple times, and now this might be set in its past or future, so now it'll give more context to some of those events. So I'm like, okay, so narratively I like it for that reason, and yes, it is set in that world. But what I want to see, as soon as I played Unicorn Overlord, I was like, I want those elements in Fire Emblem. I'd never thought of those elements before.
The
like,
real-time kind of stuff?
The real-time 2D sprites, overworld map system. Because generally, like, in some of the Fire Emblem games, you know the way, like, you start your level and it'll show you a map briefly, and you can do the side missions by clicking on the icon on them.
Yeah, much like Final Fantasy Tactics, you just pick a location on the map and there's your battle.
This is essentially, it's zoomed in. All those locations are there, but they are in fact linked
on a world map.
And like, in Unicorn Overlord, you can physically see the next level, like, just over the hill, and then the game stops you from going over there, but it's there, you know, and like it makes it all feel quite connected.
Yeah.
Because in the open world sections, you can traverse from one area to the other just by moving around, and you're like, well, that's really cool. So yeah, I'd love those elements.
So you'd kind of like you'd like kind of that world map to navigate with your kind of 2D sprite, but would you still want, like you kind of have in Three Houses, for example, that hub where you go and talk to, you know, because the Fire Emblem is all, you know, it's all about the real time strategy battles, not real time strategy, but the strategy battles plus the kind of relationshipy side of things where you know, get your bromances or romances going. So would you still want that kind of central hub?
I would want 3D. The central hub just to be the various towns we go to along that exist in that open world. Not necessarily that church.
So the one thing you just keep going back to. You just want to be able to talk to the crew in the next village.
Exactly, but I don't need all 3D models standing around fishing or, you know, doing all that type of nonsense.
Is it based in, because it's been a while since I watched the trailer for it from Game Awards, is it based in a Coliseum type thing?
It seems to be in a Coliseum type city.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
So I consider it like Luca in Final Fantasy X, you know?
Yeah.
That's where you're starting off, you know? But they show so little, and the animation that they've used since that their previous game, Fire Emblem Engage, I don't like it. Like, you know, the characters all look the same. You just swap out their hair, and then
it's a cheap thing to do, because I do remember with Three Houses, although I didn't play all Three Houses like you did, I quite enjoyed how different the characters felt on my team. Do you know what I mean? They looked a bit different. They all had a little bit of a backstory, but in Engage it was that classic. It's what I thought from, and listen, I didn't play through like you did, but Metaphor Fantasia, when I saw the character art for that, I was like, oh, that's the kind of samey thing I don't really enjoy. So
the character, like, the art in that game is bad, and like that and the music are not good, especially if you compare them to Persona 5. Like, the fact that was nominated for Game of the Year when Persona 5 wasn't, I'm like, that irks me massively. You know? But I know very little about the next Fire Emblem game. I still want it to be good. I know it has more than one writer, unlike Fire Emblem Engage, so I assume they'll give them proper stories, as opposed to this is the prince and those are their two retainers. One likes candy and one likes chocolate. You know, like,
silly,
and then their entire
basic
personality is just that. Like, you know, it's just so bare bones,
so kind of shallow.
It's so shallow. It sucks. It's awful. Like, whereas in Three Houses, you'd be playing a game to learn, like, halfway through, that these characters actually know each other from years ago, and that, you know, one realized who the other one was and didn't say it, and I'm like, wow, there's like layers to this. So I want a bit more of that, because that type of stuff existed in the two Fire Emblem, the Sacred Stones, for the Game Boy Advance, and then Path of Radiance and Radiant Stone, which are the 2 Ike ones.
Yeah.
Those are tremendous games, but
Yeah.
both those, and then Tree Houses again with a good story. But most Fire Emblem games have a really bad story, but
Yes.
some can surprise you.
Like, I mean, I thought which was I always forget, which is the one where you could play as the good guys, the bad guys, or the middling one initially.
So that was the DS one.
Yeah.
There were 3 separate titles.
Yeah, they
three
did
games.
the 3 games. Yeah.
Revelations was one, I think.
I can't remember.
I didn't like it because it was set in this kind of like Japanese style.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I played through that one, and that was kind of the
character art was atrocious.
Yeah, and I was my first real step into like a modern Fire Emblem because I played some of the old ones, and I was like, okay, here we go. And the one with Chrom and Lucina,
that was Awakening. That was great.
That was great.
Yeah.
And then I played this one. I was like, oh, this one kind of again, it didn't have the soul, you know.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about those strategy games with soul, because I mean, before we get into our games that we finished, that we want to talk about, I'm currently playing Final Fantasy Tactics,
yes,
which is very, very difficult, and I was falling away from
playing on normal difficulty.
Yeah, which is very, and I remember that from my initial first time playing through it on the PSP. We wore the lines. I thought it was a hard game, then never finished it because it was so hard. It's a hard game now, and I was like, oh, I'm really kind of slipping away from this. What do I need to do to make me, invest in these characters? Because it was still early on in the game, and hadn't introduced so much. So I named all my team after my friends, and I was like,
great strategy to make yourself care about characters.
Oh man, and and immediately
does it let you write their backstories?
No,
and things like that?
no. It's just a name change, and
Just
then of course,
change,
like a job thing, I would have put like people up to certain jobs, so they would columns. A thief, I think that fits with columns.
Because in XCOM, I would write out character bios for everyone,
and
it came up with my own fan fiction for everything.
But it's such a great way because now I'm in the game. I'm like, oh, and I have to protect these people because they're my friends and they have names.
Permadeath's a thing, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
like when your character dies, you've got 3 of their turns to revive them, or else they turn into a crystal and they're gone forever.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I haven't lost any of you guys. I lost some no name. What do you call them? The item people.
No,
not. No, I'm still there. But it is good because with the job system, and it is, I forgot how much I enjoy. I'm still such early doors in it that there's only a few left me. But anytime I'm in a game, I'll always change the desktop on my laptop to the game that I'm playing. So anytime I turn on, I'm always like, oh yeah, that's what cool. I'm into. So Tactics is what's on my laptop right now. But I love that screensaver because it has all the jobs. So like the samurai, the kind of the gun, I don't know what they call the machinist maybe. And I'm looking at it being like, oh, that's all ahead of me. I'm so excited, And
because they're the advanced classes, right? They haven't got to yet.
And I'm like already in my head, I was thinking like, okay, what will I make Craig, or what will I make Kev, or what will I make, Andrew?
Miraiden always. If that's a class in that. Miraiden. That's my always.
Miraiden?
Yeah.
What kind of style class is that?
It's the sword user.
Oh, so the samurai.
Yeah, they develop into the sword master. But I don't like samurais because they always have that clunky bullshit Japanese armor type crap. Yeah, that's what turned me off. Those Fire Emblem Birthright and stuff. When you see everyone with the shoulder pads and crap and like the big scary masks, I'm like, no, that's not for me. I want a badass sword with like cool looking robes.
Yeah. But it's a great game. Still, I am loving the difficulty. We discussed would I put it down to easy mode? I'm like, I don't think so. Unless I am struggling. It's not that I'm failing. It's just that I can only really do 1, maybe 2 scenarios at a time when I play the game because I'm so involved in making sure that.
But they last a long time, so you just know, if I jump into this game, it could be another 45 an hour.
And you don't want to. You can't kind of just blasé go through it because it's such high risk of losing a character.
Right.
So anytime I get
go in willy-nilly. You have to be like, I need to get myself ready.
Because I hired loads of people because I was like, I'm named after my friends. Well, I'm short of a few people, so I'll hire a few more people. And I threw them in the first time I did it, because they were all lower level then. Let's say Ramza, the main character, along with some of the other guys that I'd had since the start. I was like, I'll create Nal and I'll create Craig, and we'll throw them all into this fight together, so they're the only ones getting EXP. Absolutely murked. And I was like, okay, so I can't do that. So let's reload and try that again, because they were all such weak level that I still needed my.
If you spend an hour beating a level, right, do you not then go back to your base? Is there not a lot of stuff that you can do for another half hour before you go into the next mission? Like,
Oh,
because like in tree houses, you could run around and talk to everyone.
No,
you
there's
could
none of that.
compete in training,
Think
you
about
could go fit. You could do lots of different things.
This is a much older game, so basically, in between those scenarios with those battles, it's basically you'll move around a map and you'll log into those locations, and you might have a bit of dialogue, you know. And it's quite. I think some of the stuff. I know you had complaints about like when they're in the battle, how they just kind of stand there and walk. I get those animations, but I love the like in those cutscenes where they're having the chats and people are like, you know, like Rams's brother's, you know, injured in bed. The animation's great, you know, like you can see him in his like 2D like turning over in bed and speaking to Rams. I'm like, oh, this looks great. Like if I could draw like this, I'd love that, you know. So that's quite good. And then you can go to taverns and hear rumors and buy upgraded stuff, but that's the extent. There is no hub to walk around in.
So that's what, like, even now, if you played Unicorn Overlord, like when I beat a mission, and the missions are shorter, like the mission could take 10-15 minutes, especially when you skip the animations, because there's a lot of, if you don't skip the animations, it'll triple your time. But like as soon as a battle's over, like the entire map is at your disposal, and like every time, like I've liberated loads of towns, and like because like the idea is when you beat a mission, say a town is pretty damaged and you have to repair it over time so that they get the features back at the town. And some of these things involve like you get the town working again, then you can take boats across to islands to get more resources and things like that. And there's like side missions you can do running around the map and talking to people, or just buying new recruit. And like I spend way more time in the overworld than I do in battle, and I need that balance, because like you, if I just go from mission to mission, I get burned out, because I'm like, no, that was too intense. I need a few minutes to calm down, settle down. That's why I thought Tree Houses had a great balance, because you always and
that there was so much to do in the hub and Tree Houses.
You know, training your units, talking to people, doing activities, events, and Unicorn Overlord has loads of that. But
you just need a palate cleanser.
If a game doesn't have that, I'd be like, I'd have to turn it off for a couple of hours.
And that's where I've not, even since I started playing Final Fantasy Tactics, I've not sat down with it for like, you know, and done a 4-hour session playing Tactics. You know, it's like I've gone in 2 missions tops. I'll come back to that tomorrow or the next day or something like that, because it is so intense. I'm sure if I went down to easy, and I'm really keen to play it and finish the story, because I remember the story being amazing up to the point in which I got. So I really want to actually finish the story, because I've no idea how it ends. It's never been spoiled for me, thankfully. I never, you know, because it's so old and I've never really paid attention to that stuff. So I'd love to actually go and finish it. But I think to really kind of steamroll through it, I'd have to drop the difficulty down and just go like, I don't have to worry about these battles. I can just move this unit.
But then you just won't be having as much.
No, exactly. I like the difficulty. It's just going to take me a long time to get through that game. So Craig, before we move on, before we go on to what this episode's about, I just want to let our listeners know about our Patreon. Over patreon.com/thegiftofgaming. For less than a coffee a month, you can hop onto our Patreon, where we currently have over 100 post shows for you to enjoy. From video gaming battle royales to thoughts and opinion pieces on the here and now of gaming, and even extra news episodes every month. There's so much for you to enjoy, all while helping keep the lights and mics and our brains on here at the Gift of Gaming podcast. On today's post show, we're guessing what naming convention was decided for the third and final part of the Final Fantasy VII trilogy, and when we think we might see the first reveal. Check out patreon.com/thegiftofgaming for our growing library of video game content. And do you prefer to listen to your podcast via YouTube video? Then boy, you're in luck. All of our podcast episodes are now on YouTube over at youtube.com/@thegiftofgaming. That's youtube.com/@thegiftofgaming. Smash that like button, subscribe, and if you're feeling bold, tell us what you think by dropping us a comment. How'd I do, Craig?
You're such a human advert.
I know, right?
I hated every second of that. I was looking at you being like, I would never do any of that. Like, you know, I don't care if nobody ever listens or watches it. I refuse to sell myself.
Self-promotion, yeah. Well, listen, I've been selling my soul since I started this. But now let's actually get on to our kind of this episode. We were kind of just thinking of like a shy talk, but you've kind of been playing or recently finished playing through a game, same as myself, kind of outside of the norms of what we would play. So what have you...
Well, because it was the last time we were chatting was like before Christmas. So like over Christmas, I was playing a ton of Horizon because I wanted to get the DLC, but I accidentally deleted my save file because I started a new file to just kind of reacquaint myself with the controls and things like that.
Shit.
But the game only saves like something like 10 previous autosaves. And it turned out I had never once manually saved.
Man, you love living life on the edge. That's
I guess
crazy.
I didn't realize that. I'm like, surely at some point I would have manually saved, but I don't remember, so I can't give out to my PlayStation.
You just started a new game and your autosaves in that new game just
so 10 hours in, I was like, I think I'm ready to switch back over to my main file, and then there was just nothing there.
Was it a pain in the ass, or did you enjoy experiencing the game again?
It was a
bit
of a pain in the ass because I had already done it, and there's some of the side like a lot of the side content in Horizon is very good. It's just like I was setting my this time around I was setting my way, so I was like, okay, the blast sling, I don't like that. I don't like the trap. All I like using is the bow and arrow and the kind of basic trap gun thing, especially once you get that ability that lets you don't have to fire it twice, you just fire it once and
it locks the bin.
I'm like, okay, now that I have that upgrade, I'll use this. But I only ever use those two weapons, so everything else I'm like, you can fuck off. So
such a shame, man, because I can even think, you know, that that it's almost like a boomerang string.
Every time, because like, the fourth hit on that explodes or something.
Oh, man.
But in order to get it to come back to you 3 times, like,
you have to catch it all the time. I've had such amazing, just in terms of, I know what you mean, because if it doesn't, you can be doing so much more damage.
You're doing fuck all damage until that last hit.
Absolutely.
And I could never catch it because I'm always standing there waiting for it to come to me, and it would just go to the right or something. I'm like, there's a technique to this, and I
you have to run with it. And I remember, like, I've got great footage, and I think it's me fighting one of the big T-Rex type thing that's at the beach towards the end. I forget what it's called. Yes. And I was fighting that and I had like a purple fucking, it wasn't legendary now, but it's a purple fucking, the disc thrower thing. And I remember fighting it, all these laser beams and things attacking me, and I'm diving through them, catching the thing again, throwing it out. And I know what you mean. It makes a fight go on for longer. But man, was it so cinematic doing that kind of stuff. I loved just kind of jumping around all the different trap things and the different weapons in that game.
Yeah, it can be fun, and sliding under a creature's legs that's like charging you down and getting its underbelly, like that is just so satisfying. But eventually I just was never doing that, and I'd always just be kind of running left or right while taking shots in slow motion. I was like, yeah, this is really, really effective. The
most effective. That and the I can't remember the arrows that blow off loads of its armor.
Yeah, the tear ones,
they were fucking amazing. Yeah,
because you just destroy their components real quick. But I got through it all with the aim of playing the DLC, but realistically by the time I got there I was kind of burned out. But I paid for the DLC, so I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And the DLC was really good. Like, it was really great. Like 20 quid, you're getting about 5 to 10 hours of like non-stop bonus content that's mostly story driven, and it's all set in like it's in LA, and like when you're on your Sunwing or whatever, you can literally fly there. You know, you go off screen for a few seconds and it kind of does a transition. But I'm like, that's cool, the way it's still kind of
part of the map.
You just kind of go off screen for a few seconds and then you're there. But I very much appreciated the lack of like loading screen there.
Yeah, it's insane.
It just made it feel connected. And then you're essentially in Hollywood, and then there's a new area and a whole new story taking place there. Nice kind of story for Aloy. I won't spoil anything, but it bothered me a little that like probably so few people would be able to get that DLC, because like most people don't finish games in this day and age. Most people do not completely clear a game.
I wonder what the stats are on that.
I'd say it's less than half, you know, especially a game that big, you know, because it would take, like, if you don't do the side content, you're talking about 40 or 50 hours, like, just to get to the ends, you know. So that was my entire Christmas, essentially, you know, just trying to get through Horizon. And like, I didn't do a single you know, those like old ruins base. First of all, I hate climbing in games, so like that just pisses me off, and like there is a lot of climbing in Horizon. However, if you don't do the side content, there's a lot less climbing, so I'm very, very thankful of that. So once climbing was involved, I was like, nah, fuck off, I'm not going up and left and up and right and all that nonsense. So Horizon was good. The DLC was really, really good. It was excellent the first time, and I wish I could have got that 10 hours and then
straight to the DLC.
Because I couldn't do that. It's like, it irked me, but I was always having fun, and like it's still an amazing game. I just wasn't ready to play it all the way through a second time. It's such
a pity. I wonder if there's ever a thing that you could, you know, PlayStation would ever do, where you could just send people save files, you know, through PlayStation Cloud or something like that, where if you were like, oh man, my Horizon thing is deleted, I'm like, here's my finished save file, I'll just like fucking send it to you on a PlayStation chat type thing. I mean, its uses would be limited, you know.
It is odd you can't transfer stuff like that in this day and age. Just people like selling their like their game data,
100%
you know?
Save file, on certain games
with certain cheats or certain upgrades or armor that people couldn't get. So, oh, here, I'll do it and I'll send it over to you. You owe me a tenner. But just sorry, one final thing on Horizon, because I didn't actually really talk about what it's about, but like, it felt like a bit of a sequel to Horizon Forbidden West. Like, there was loads of new weapons, new armors, new techniques.
You mean Forbidden West in general? You're not talking about the DLC. You're just talking
no, sorry, Burning Shores.
So the DLC,
the DLC, Forbidden West. about 10 hours of content, lots of new abilities, new skills. There's even the new version of the Sunwing called a water wing or something.
Maybe, yeah.
And I really enjoyed. There's a part in the game where like there's this tower firing lasers at you,
Yeah.
and you have to duck below the water to avoid them. And I was like, this is really, really cool. Like this felt really cinematic, and it was a nice way to introduce that
mechanic.
Plus, I found catching fish became way easier, because when you can literally swim in the water.
And the underwater, like in that game, is
gorgeous.
It's so gorgeous. But the game, like you may have said it so many times, to me, it is still the most beautiful game I've seen on
the PlayStation 5.
On a console in general. I don't think I've seen a more beautiful game. And
granted, that's heavily down to it's a very misty game. Like even Zelda had so much mist. When the game they don't want to
covering up
the flaws of the
blemishes,
assets. So like you'll see, but like it suited the world to see that haze. And even the haze itself was beautiful looking.
Going through a forest, sometimes you get that kind of like that dewy haze, that foggy stuff coming in.
Like,
it was
early
great.
morning.
The light coming through the trees. Yeah, that game was amazing, and it's a pity because I don't know when we're going to get Horizon 3.
They are working on it though.
Yes, I'd say it's probably far out, but I can't go back. I platinumed 1 and 2, so I'm like, I'm done with them. And we keep talking about it. I'm like, maybe I'll go. No, I won't go back.
Well, I won't go back. I don't like 1, and Forbidden West I thought was a great game, but like I'm done now.
Yeah.
And I really hope that because I played
you play
through
3, like if it comes out, or do you mean
if it came out this year, I wouldn't play it.
Oh,
and if it comes out next year, I probably wouldn't get it day one.
Yeah.
But if it comes out in 2028, I'll probably be ready.
Nice. That's so fair. Yeah.
Unless I had a lot of different elements, but there's only so much of sliding and rolling I can do and shooting monsters because I don't like archery combat.
Which is its mainstay.
Which is really its main thing, fighting.
That's fair. I played. It's only the short game, and it's been around for years. It's like 4 or 5 years old at this stage. It was on, I think it came out as like one of the monthly free games, or maybe it was even on the collection on the PlayStation Store. And I'm a big sucker for really nice art in a thumbnail of a video game. If it's kind of real shitty anime kind of stuff.
You judge the books by their covers.
A little bit, yeah. First impression type job. But this one had a real nice, interesting art. It's called Far Changing Tides. And I think it's done by, I have the name of the developers here. What are they called? Okomotive, published by Frontier Foundry. So I think they had a game before called Far Lone Sails, which I think was only on a computer, but this one was released for consoles. But it's basically, and there might be those out there who've played kind of, let's say, Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, where you control the spaceship and there's 4 or 5 different controls, and you as a team of 4 people go in and you control all these bits to control, like fly the ship through space and to fight the enemies, etc. This is like a really a true indie version of that, and the whole thing is that you're this guy and nobody speaks. There's no dialogue, there's no speech bubbles, there's nothing like that. It's you set off from your house with a plant pot. I'm glad I carried it with me because it was a trophy for growing that plant when you put it on your ship later on. But I just was like, better pick this thing up and bring it with me. Like, it seems like it's there. But you get onto the ship, and the ship at first, and it's really cool. It's real, I would just say post-apocalyptic style kind of sail ship. It looks really kind of futuristic in a way, but you control the sails, and you have to kind of get the engine going. So you collect kind of like rubbish and stuff like that you can burn into this engine. You get the engine going, you get a bit more speed, get your sails going, and off you go. And as you go through this world, it's basically you trying to get out of this, I suppose, the place in which you live. You're crossing lakes and you have to get out into the ocean. But before you get into the ocean, you upgrade the ship so it become a submarine. And there's all these other elements that you have to control then in the submarine. But
that sounds all right. Kind of therapeutic.
Really, and the game's 4 or 5 hours long, maybe tops. Not a big one, but it's so atmospheric. Like I was playing with headphones in the whole time, which I'd recommend for sure, because anytime you're on like the sound of the waves and everything, that's so nice. But especially when you go into the submarine, I'm a sucker. I'm big into like whales, deep sea stuff, underwater stuff. I love that. I know like lots of people like have that fear. Me and Andrew spoke on the podcast before. He was like, "Get me the fuck out of deep water." I'd be like, "Put me into deep water, please."
I feel you. I'm not a big fan of being, unless it's playful like Dave the Diver or something like, But if it's like Dredge or something,
absolutely. No. I totally get it. But this was it was so nice because you finally get out into the ocean, and then you can put you go into your submersible, and everything's muted. All the noises are muted. You can still hear yourself running around, but I just love the sound effects. And there's no real dangers. There's no dangers of kind of like sharks or being attacked. It's just I suppose the danger of the journey, about keeping the ship afloat, because if you don't do things properly, the ship is damaged and it slows down. And there's a great moment in the game where a storm comes in when you're crossing the sea, and the waves get really big, and you can see your sails getting damaged. Like, shit, I have to go submarine in this. And then you go underwater and everything just goes peaceful, quiet. And I was like, I wonder. So I went back up, I re-emerged into the ocean. Big waves, the sound effects come in, the music, the horrible music comes in, and you go back into your submarine and everything's safe in here. And I was like, yes, this kind of game. And it's just a little mini puzzler. You hit...
So you just solving these tiny little puzzles to upgrade the ship, to find how to move it.
And to keep moving the ship, to get things out of its way when you're crossing certain things. And I loved it. And it's like I said, I'm 4 years late to the party, and maybe there's people out there who've played it. But if anybody...
It doesn't sound like it matters,
No, not at all.
It's not a high-tech, visually impressive game, right?
And it's one of those things whereby I looked at footage of their previous game, Lone Sails, and you can see that I think that one was a kind of a Mad Maxi style. It was a vehicle that was on the ground and it had sails, do you know what I mean? And you'd kind of get it across this desert, and it's really old looking, do you know what I mean? You can tell it was their first kind of, these guys trying to make a game, and it looks quite, basic or whatever. This one looks great. I'm kind of like, man, I need to keep an eye on these guys, Locomotive, to see. I'd love to see what the next one is. Like, we're 4 years since this one. I'm like, whatever the next one comes out,
at least you'll be ready.
That recipe, I'm like, yeah, get me in on that, whatever it might be. If it's a plane thing you have to fly, whatever. But yeah, man, 4 or 5 hours, loved it, finished it, sat back and was like, God, I haven't felt like, it was real nice. It's not as if like when I played Rebirth, 557 Rebirth, when I finished it, I had a real hole. As in, like, what do I do now? With this one, it was just a real pleasant. It's like, that was great. That was nice. I'm glad I decided to download this. And
but you were fine that it ended?
Yes. And because Rebirth I put 120 hours into. So when I was done, I was like, what the fuck do I do with my spare time now? Yeah. Whereas this was a nice just kind of filler, because...
a couple of evenings to just get through it.
Exactly. Because I was, playing Arc Raiders, and like I said earlier on the episode with... Final Fantasy Tactics, I need breaks, and this thing was just perfect, and I hadn't played a game really like it before, where there's just no dialogue, it's just the sound, it's just the music, it's just the journey, and I'm like, yeah, I'd recommend to anybody.
Nice. Well, I had a similar game, but the exact opposite in many ways. So it was a very calm and therapeutic game, but it was massive and too big and so much going on that and it was designed to be played over hundreds of hours, I think. So basically this is a game, it was out on the Switch, I think it's out on the PlayStation as well. It's called Fantasy Life, girl who steals time, and I got on this because it looks a lot like Animal Crossing, except you have your town, but then there's also a world full of wilderness and things to do, and resources to get to then bring back to the town to make things, as opposed to just wait till the next day until the resources replenish, and I love the idea of that, because Animal Crossing was a game I wanted to like, but I hated, because it was missing those elements. So I got this one, and granted, Nintendo do things very, very well, music is sensational, the sound effects.
This is a Nintendo...
This is not made by Nintendo. It's made by a different studio, or
published by, or something like that.
Yeah, published. I'm not sure, because it's out on every platform. But the music in Fantasy Life is atrocious.
Oh shit! Sorry, I thought you were leaning in man, they did so good in the music in this game. Oh shit!
Because I compare it to Animal Crossing, and it's better than Animal Crossing in every way, because there's just way more of it. Yeah. You have your little map, which you can make, and you can design the island as you want. You can add rivers, mountains, this, that, and the other. You can build things. But by the end of the game, my town had 2 houses and just nothing, because I just didn't care about any of that. All I wanted to do was, because the story was pretty decent, you basically had to, you land on this island, and somehow this dragon turns up, and the dragon sends you 1,000 years into the past. And
classic game,
right? You're on the island where there's a civilization, and you're like, oh man, this is crazy. And then you learn somehow to tame the dragon so that you can go back to the present, and then you're going into the the depths of the current island, and you're like, oh no, look, how are we supposed to get past this? There's been a cave in, and it's like, oh, I know, we'll go back in time with the dragon and find the builder and bring him here, and then he can get us in. And then anytime you would do that, it would lead to the next, say, level of the game where you would have to go back to the past to find a certain person.
I like the mechanic, yeah.
And it always worked, because then in the modern world, you're just exploring this one cave, like as though this should have taken 1 hour to do. But every time you go back in time, you're spending days doing tasks just to open one door then go in and find out you now need something else, and you have to go back again. Like, and he kept doing that over and over again. But like, it was fun, and it was like the writing was pretty good, and the characters were kind of goofy and funny. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of enjoyable. It's not just an animal saying like, me and my friend kittens like to go and do picnics on Tuesdays. You know, like it's bollocks. You know, I don't like any of that nonsense.
Yeah,
I like when there's a bit of substance to it.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely, absolutely.
And in this, like, there's 14 jobs, and you essentially get to pick any of the 14 or all of them, and like go around this massive open world, cut down trees, you know, like mine for ore, kill monsters. Like, there's a lot in it. It's just after about 30 or 40 hours when you're getting towards the end of the game, you're just like, okay, brilliant. Like, I'm finding this enemy a bit kind of tough to beat. I'd love to get that mithril sword, but I know the only way to do that is to, like, you know, have your mining really high leveled, and then have your smithing really high leveled, and then have your, like, you'd need about 4 or 5 different lives in order to do a bunch of different things. So I was like, okay, this game is designed to be a very slow burn. But I realized pretty early on that, like, if I just kept fighting monsters, eventually I would just get those things, you know?
Oh, how so? In terms of like job levels type
so
thing, or
in the world map, similar to Breath of the Wild. Imagine the world map is like Breath of the Wild, and it just contains all these resources. But when you get to the towers within the world, essentially, if you do enough quests, you can level up the tower, and then everything in that zone is now on a higher level. So the mining resources you get are better, the enemies are higher level and drop better gear. So if you just do enough fighting in one specific area, you can level up that area to like have enemies that are like level 50 when you're level 30 or something.
Right,
you know?
okay.
So like, and beating them gets you stuff that
You
should
have.
take you 10, 20 hours to make yourself.
Right.
But because you've just done this one thing, you can kind of get there. So doing that type of stuff I love, because I'm like figuring it out. But by the end of the game, I had maybe 8 lives, and I'd invested in pretty heavily. And I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. Like, and if I ever went back and played it again, I'd pick completely different lives. And I'm like, I'd say the experience would be drastically different, because maybe I'd like, no, I'm just gonna hang out in my shop and just start crafting and leveling that up and do it manually.
how does it compare to the likes of a? Because I mean, is there farming involved in this?
There's farming, but it's far more basic than, say, Stardew or something,
Right,
because
okay,
that's quite time consuming.
Yeah.
In this, a patch of 9, you would water all 9 instantly, and you would harvest all 9 instantly.
Right. Okay.
You know,
it's not its focus.
no, and it's the farming is probably one of the worst ones, just because it's used to get you food, and then using that food, your cooking life uses that food to make deadly meals that make you really strong.
When
or
you go
do
out
other-
on your hero slashing.
yeah,
life.
yeah. So like it can really buff you massively, but like farming by itself doesn't do an awful lot. But like they try to make everything have a purpose. So like when you're fishing, like when you're fighting monsters, there's legendary monsters. When you're catching fish, there's legendary fish.
Yeah, nice.
But because they want to do that a bit more, when you're cutting down a tree, there can be a legendary tree that like defends itself.
That's gas.
You know, like so,
funny.
they've added extra elements for
yeah.
whimsy, but to make each life have a bit more drama to it.
Yeah.
And so like chopping down a tree while it's like regenerating health, you're like, oh, you fucker, and you're trying to get, you know, like it can be, or like enemies start to attack you while you're like trying to chop it down.
Yeah.
So like they try to make each life fun. They do a decent job at doing that. Like, you know, like I didn't play all of them, but I did enjoy each one.
How many hours do you reckon you put in?
I'd say I put in about 40 hours into
Right.
it. There's way more to do, but it reached the stage where now it's just a grind.
Okay.
And I'd finished the main story, and they were like, oh, here, do you want to come back and do the post-game stuff? But I was like, okay, here's where they're probably going to make everything take that extra bit longer. I'll need more of this and more of that. But I mean, it's definitely a fun loop. And if you liked Animal Crossing but wanted just more of a world as well as just an island and like a bit more combat or a bit more to do, it definitely It scratches that basically it was the Animal Crossing I wanted.
But nice. Okay, because that's good, because it's like, you know, it was funny. I was like, it's different strokes for different folks. Lauren was talking to me yesterday about some of the guys in her work were talking about Factorio. Did you ever?
No.
Factorio is a really, really old like PC game where you're basically building a factory and it's all about efficiency. And like I think of things like Animal Crossing is a real soft kind of chill game. And can only kind of be played one way, but like the likes of Stardew or maybe even this one, Fantasy Life, can be played in different ways. Like you can choose your lives, and if you want to be more fighting, go for it. If you want to be more farming, one of the things I always laugh at, the reason I brought up Factorio was because of this, was that I'm always a player. It's why I enjoy like Animal Crossing. Probably why I'd enjoy aspects of Fantasy Life, and why I love Stardew Valley is that I'm all about creating like everything needs to have a nice appearance, like the whole thing. And I remember our mate Andy G, living over in New Zealand. He was up back home one time, and I think we were all kind of maybe playing a bit of Stardew at the time, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to check out my farm?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Now, my thing had like a little forest over here, and that's where I keep the bees, whatever. And that's the cows. They have all the field to roam. It's no problem. Everything was beautiful. And he opened up his Stardew Valley farm, and it was just this efficient, dark factory. Like industrial. It was horrible, And I was looking at it being like, holy shit. And like Factorio, but like this with Fantasy Life, I prefer the idea that, yes, if you want to be like that and be super efficient, you can be. But I
much prefer the
But you didn't do the village. You never
I didn't, because like, it's harder to do, and you've like to unlock those things takes long, and like you have to do essentially like you go to say a new town, and basically when you go into that town will look different to the previous town, and all those assets that town has, you can use those to build up your town. But in order to do that, you have to complete a bunch of side quests do deliveries and this, that, and the other. So you what you have to create for your island is actually very, very small, and you have to unlock all those. And I never spent time unlocking that stuff.
Was there any
I
sort
just
of
focused
bonus
on the story because I enjoyed the story.
Was there any sort of bonus to having that thing upgraded, or was that purely like the stuff that I enjoy? Like, was that purely an aesthetic thing? Here's your village that you get to go back to and look. It looks lovely. And
your village just looked nice. But I mean, you could add farms and things like that, or add different to spice it up. But like, I'm not very good at decorating, like with Coral Island and Stardew Valley, it's easy. It's somewhat easier to do because it's just basically a little grid. But when it comes to remapping terrain, I'm like, nah, that's more Minecraft now, and I don't like that.
Okay, fair.
If it was just a very set island that you couldn't modify, I'd probably prefer it, because there's just too much to think about there. And like, I'm not going to spend 3 hours making a lake down the middle of my eye, and like, I don't know how to even approach doing that, and I'm wasting time here, like, I don't have enough fun. I'd love to just download some presets or something like that, and just have that done, and then design my island around those presets. But they want you to sculpt and bulldoze a bunch of stuff,
which is like, that's what I mean. That's what I like about the game, that you don't have to do that for major benefits. I like games like Stardew Valley like that. I could have, now granted I wasn't getting maybe as many things to sell, I wasn't as rich as Andy and his, whatever else, but I
always
like
took
games.
My time,
I like games that like give you the choice to be like, if you're aesthetically inclined, go make this beautiful thing, but if you don't want to, it's not going to affect your main game. And I'm like, cool.
Exactly.
So would you recommend Fantasy Life then?
I'd recommend it to people who liked Animal Crossing but would like a bit more action. But as a standalone game, I can see a lot of people hating it, because the story is quite a big factor. But like, even right out the gate, like, you're on a boat with a bunch of people, and there's not that many animations, and it's quite cartoony. So it's like, oh no, the dragon's attacking, everyone down, and every single one of the NPCs just kind of puts their hands over their head, to signify, like, they're on the ship. It's like, brace for impact, and everyone just kind of puts their hands, like, because they don't have extra animations to jump and dive and stuff like that.
I sometimes think things like that have their own kind of charm.
It does, and like, I laughed a little bit, but I'm like, they're not focusing on that stuff.
Excellent. So then for 2026, Craig, because I know, but you weren't on the kind of what we're playing episode, but for 2026, and I'm only going to say this because I didn't have this information when we did our episode last. Is there any game you're looking forward to playing this year?
Yes, and because I was going to hop on that episode, but like, your brother and Chris were very fast to reply.
Yes,
so I was like, I don't want to be like 4 is too many on an episode like that. Everyone should get their time. But yeah, there's this really, really cool game called Alabaster Dawn. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's an indie action RPG, like all sprites. Think old school top-down Zelda, but on steroids. So lots more going on. You can move diagonally. Like it's
Whoa!
It's
mind blown.
but like it's bigger with wider areas, tons of enemies. You move very quickly and looks to have like a pretty good story. Like it's like that top-down Zelda, but like do you know the way like you always kind of move like a grid. You move old school Pokemon. You know, like they didn't like just up, down,
so
left,
this
right.
is kind of
this
more
is
of a
really
modern
fast,
Flash
and the camera's a bit more panned out. So almost like not Hades, but like almost like Hades, but like not a roguelike. You know, like an open world map. You can go to all these different places, but it looked gorgeous.
Nice.
And like even like the character using a hook shot, like he was flying like halfway across the screen, like but like a big 100-meter distance, not just to the next rock. You know, like so it looked like a very modern-esque take on the Zelda formula, because I used to really like those top-down Zelda games, but I think every game since then has just copied it exactly. You know, like as slow and just little puzzles and like not fast enough, not 2026, but this game Alabaster Dawn, and it's in it's on Steam. What is it? Not beta.
It's alpha
it's
testing.
It's in. What's the term? Not alpha testing. It's in
beta testing.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll say beta testing, right?
Yeah.
It's in that early stage where people can play like it for a bit, but what's coming out looks
pre something testing. Yeah,
I can't remember. I'm gonna come back.
Hades was in it for Hades 2 went in it for a while for PC users. I think they could play it before it came out. Nice.
Is that what it's called? Well, that looked absolutely incredible. I really want to play that game. I was like, why do you even want to play in 2026? And I was looking up games for 2026, and that was one of the ones that popped up, and it's like, oh man, that looked good.
Are you a GTA 6 man, yes or no, to play?
Yeah, completely. Okay. And I love GTA 5.
Nice. Okay, yeah, good.
I remember you saying, like, was it you who didn't really like it?
I
Too much shouting, is that what you said?
Yeah. I was just, it was a thing whereby I think I got real tired of, and especially, like,
Trevor.
But
he shouts the most, for sure.
Yeah, but like, I mean, the only one who didn't was Trevor thing, and who was the third?
Michael and I can't remember the other guy's name.
But he was the only one who didn't shout. But Trevor and Michael sometimes.
Yeah, they would.
And I remember I was.
But it was such a because the game was set in Hollywood, and it was very much like rich folk. And
but I was like maybe 40% into the game, and I was watching another cutscene, and Michael and Trevor were just shouting at each other like they kind of did in every other cutscene before that for the last like 2 hours. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't getting enough out of the game from that, so I was like, this is just frustrating me. I'm out. I will consider GTA 6, of course, because who was not going to? It's the biggest game ever.
I know, yeah.
But for me, 2026, I'm looking at, because I saw the release of it, played the original ones with Kev and Luke, because they had Xbox back in the day, but Fable looks fantastic. Fable looks, and it'll be PlayStation as well, because Xbox sold their soul to give everything to everyone. Well, maybe not sold their soul. I like that I can play their games now, but that really surprised me. That looks fantastic. I watched this like 12-minute gameplay. If anybody was into Fable, I recommend watching this video, because it is like just a modern version of exactly what it used to be. In theory, I'm sure when we play the game, I'll probably see some things, but that's probably not a day one. But the first time that comes out on sale, even if it's 10% off or something like that, I'll be in there.
I have one more, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And it's only because like we've been talking a lot about Chrono Trigger lately, like myself and Chris were having that kind of argument. But I did come across like another game. It's called Threads of Time, and it basically looks like a modern 2D Octopath style Chrono Trigger, where like it's like Octopath Traveler, but like it does seem like the plot you go through all these different areas of time. So there's a futuristic area with like cars and sci-fi shit, and then you can go back
what's it
into
called
the past.
again?
It's called Threads of Time.
Okay, yeah.
But it's very much like the Octopath. You're running around with the sprites.
Yes.
It seems to be, I think it's turn-based combat, but there seem to be elements of the Super Mario RPG where, like you're dodging stuff that the enemies in the background.
There's a bit more to do.
Yeah, there's a bit more, almost like Clear Obscure, but nowhere near that level.
No.
But visually it looked gorgeous. It reminded me so much of Chrono Trigger, but I can't play Chrono Trigger now because it's just way too old, and there's just been so much. So this looks like a spiritual successor, because I love the idea of it. It's just it's too old clunky, now, and like I need to know where to go and things like that. And this seems to be like the bridge for that game.
Nice.
I don't know much about it because I literally looked it up like on my way here, but as soon as I saw the trailer,
you were prepping hard for this episode.
As soon as I saw the trailer, though, I went, "How is not everyone not talking about that?"
I have to watch
that looks incredible. Like, but it was only a quick trailer. I think it's very early development, so it might not even arrive in 2026. So
okay,
maybe I've broken the rule there, and I might not get to play it.
No,
but it's possible.
I'm excited to any games that are coming up. But no, thank you very much for sharing that, Craig. And if our listeners, if you have any games that you're looking forward to playing in 2026, or that you played recently that are kind of like a little bit out there, let us know at thegiftogamingpodcast@gmail.com. Craig, thank you so much for hopping on the episode.
Thank you for having me.
We're about to hop onto a post show and talk about Final Fantasy VII Part 3. Ooh. But to our listeners, until then, as always and forever, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out.